Hi, I'm Robin.
And I'm Chris. Together we're the Gen X couple.
Hey guys.
Take one. Hello, everyone.
Today we are going to take you on a journey from rugged, fog-shrouded shores of Maine down through Connecticut and into Massachusetts, visiting some of New England's most notorious and eerie lighthouses. These are places with real history, maritime tragedy, brutal isolation, I can't even imagine, and stories that generations have whispered. I'm talking ghostly tales that have survived long after the keepers went home.
So our first stop is going to be on Seguin Island Lighthouse. Purchased off the mouth.
Not purchased, perched. You had it right the first time.
Perched off
Where's
the
that buzzer?
Mouth
It's coming from Amazon today, actually.
The Connecticut River in Maine. This station was commissioned in the 1790s, and the present tower was built in 1857. It helped countless ships navigate dangerous shoals at the edge of the Atlantic, but while its history is impressive, the legends are equally haunting.
One of the most enduring tales from Seguin involves a 19th century keeper and his young wife. According to local legend, he brought her to the isolated island soon after their wedding. Lonely and bored, obviously, she asked him to bring a piano out to the station, which was a difficult task given the rocky location. But once it arrived, she could only play one tune, and she played it obsessively. After endless repetition, the keeper reportedly snapped. He destroyed the piano with an axe, then murdered his wife before taking his own life. And rumor has it that on very still, very foggy nights, passing sailors and caretakers have heard the ghostly melody drifting out toward the ocean, even though no piano has been there for over a century.
But that's not the only spirit people talk about on Seguin. Many caretakers have described unsettling phenomena. Footsteps echoing up the lighthouse staircase when no one was there. Doors swinging open and closed without wind. Tools moving or disappearing randomly. And unexplained cold spots in old rooms.
A sure sign of a ghost.
Yes, and there are even reports of a spectral young girl's laughter bouncing around the interior and the sense of a presence helping with chores before disappearing into thin air.
How cool would that be?
I would love a ghost to help with chores.
Yeah, that reminds me of what's happening upstairs in our house. I swear to God, it's messing with me. Every time we use the upstairs bathroom, the flusher, what's the thing? The
handle? Is
that what it's called? The toilet handle? The thing to flush the toilet is broken. I swear to God, this has happened so much over, especially the last month. And every time Chris goes upstairs to fix it, it's fine. It's making me look crazy. I'm not.
Technically.
Jared has witnessed it too. Today it happened again, and I screamed from upstairs. I'm like, Krista, get up here right now. And he came up, and you did get to see it broken. It wasn't just me. You finally, for once, saw that the toilet was broken.
And what about the AC?
Yeah, the air conditioner was on in my room, just randomly. I don't know why that was on. I didn't leave it on. It was on last night because I do sleep with my AC year-round. But I turned it off because I had to go around that side of the bed to turn off my nightlight. Yeah, I sleep with a nightlight. Not because of ghosts, because of bugs. I don't want them crawling on me. If I wake up during the night, I have to see what's going on. But I'm getting off track, and I'm getting the stink eye from somebody sitting next to me. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah, a young girl's laughter. So some people believe one of the figures is called the Old Captain. Did we say more than one figure?
No.
I can't remember. But apparently one of the figures in the Seguin Lighthouse is believed to be the Old Captain. And it was thought that he was the first keeper, Major John Polersky, who died on the island in the early 1800s. Visitors say his ghost can sometimes be seen climbing the tower steps like he's making his rounds still. And while others have said that furniture mysteriously moves back to its original spot after caretakers try to remove it.
So from Seguin, let's drift a few miles out to sea to Boon Island Lighthouse, the tallest lighthouse in New England. It towers over 133 feet off a tiny slab of rock 6 miles from the Maine coast. Built in 1855 after earlier towers were destroyed by storms and rough seas. This light stands amid one of the most desolated maritime landscapes in the region.
Boon Island's ghost stories often begin in the early maritime tragedy that began the site infamous long before the lighthouse existed. I don't know why I struggled over that sentence. So the ghost stories begin with the early maritime tragedy that made the site infamous. So in 1710, the British merchant ship Nottingham Galley wrecked on the rocks. The crew were stranded for weeks during winter storms. We're talking snow, freezing winds, no food, no shelter, and over those harrowing days, some of the men resorted to cannibalism to survive. This horrific ordeal has been woven into the lighthouse lore ever since, and many mariners still speak of hearing eerie wails and cries on stormy nights that they say come from the rock itself.
Now, there's another haunting tale tied to Boon Island that doesn't involve the shipwreck directly, but the human toll of isolation. One story tells of Catherine Bright, a newlywed who accompanied her husband, the keeper, to the station. Not long after their arrival, he was swept into the ocean and drowned during a violent storm. Catherine is said to have dragged his body back to the lighthouse and kept the lamp lit for 5 days and nights, refusing to leave his side, until she herself collapsed from exhaustion and cold. Years later, fishermen and Coast Guard keepers claimed to see a sad white-clad figure near the rocks at dusk, or to hear moans and shrieks over the wind, believed to be her spirit.
Some modern Coast Guard keepers reportedly hear eerily automatic actions too. So there are stories of the beacon glowing when no one was there to turn it on, or dogs running frantically after things that their owners couldn't see. At night, doors have been said to open and close on their own, and some have felt like they were being watched, either from the fog or somewhere else beyond the lantern.
Now let's head south from the open Atlantic into Long Island Sound to Connecticut's New London Ledge Lighthouse. It was built in 1909 to guard the entrance to the Thames River. This offshore lighthouse is surrounded by compelling and sometimes unsettling tales of paranormal activity.
Yeah, I think the most famous figure from Ledge Light is the ghost known as Ernie. Legends vary on his backstory. Some say he was a keeper who died after a broken heart. Others say that he fell accidentally or from a prank gone wrong. But over the decades of stories and Coast Guard accounts, Ernie became the name associated with the strange events in the lighthouse. Keepers from the mid-20th century onward reported things like blankets being pulled off the beds at night. Somebody that I know sitting next to me experienced that in New Orleans. Doors opening and slamming shut, television switching on and off, foghorns blaring uncommanded, and boats mysteriously coming untied from the dock.
Now, some people describe a shadowy figure in a rain hat spotted inside empty rooms, or heavy footsteps pacing the hallway when no one else is present.
That sounds like the Gorton's fishermen.
Coast Guard personnel stationed there prior to automation in the 1980s left logbooks full of weird entries. Doors unlocked, they locked before, equipment moved overnight, and sensations of being watched despite being alone on the ledge. Local lore even includes quips like Ernie's domain, scribbled in frustration in station logs.
It is worth noting that while some paranormal investigation teams have explored the lighthouse, official paranormal proof is lacking. And that hasn't stopped generations of mariners and visitors from feeling that there's more to the place than simple maritime history.
Now let's head back up to the Maine coast again to one of the oldest functioning lighthouses in the state, Wood Island Lighthouse in Saco Bay. It was established in 1808, and this active light guided ships into Winter Harbor in the Saco River. And its granite tower and keeper's quarters have stood for more than 2 centuries.
But the history of Wood Island is married to real tragedy. In 1896, a local fisherman and squatter named Howard Hobbs got into a deadly argument with the island's landlord and fisherman, Fred Milliken. In that confrontation, Hobbs shot Milliken, then, horrified by what he'd done, turned the rifle on himself inside his shack, which I'm pretty sure is physically impossible. Isn't that impossible? A rifle? I don't know. The murder-suicide became the catalyst for decades of eerie claims.
And since then, visitors and caretakers have reported a range of strange phenomena. Shadowy figures flitting near the tower walkway, footsteps.
Yeah, flitting. You stumbled over that. You know what that means? Flitting.
Footsteps echoing when no one walks. Disembodied moans. Over the fog. And doors opening and closing on their own. Some claim to have seen both Milliken and Hobbs' figures wandering the grounds or inside the lighthouse long after dark, while others have told of odd voices picked up in recordings and temperature fluctuations that defy explanation.
Yeah, paranormal investigation teams that have visited Wood Island reported what they considered intelligent hauntings. Interactions through mediums suggested remorse or emotion, and even photographic anomalies documented during the evening inquiries. Some photos reportedly showed orbs or figures not visible to the naked eye, particularly around the staircase leading up to the beacon.
Now, before we move on to Massachusetts, we should mention one more New England lighthouse with reported paranormal lore. Highland Light, also called Cape Cod Light.
That is in Massachusetts.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
In Truro.
Oh, we've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While not as widely publicized as Maine's haunted beacons, locals, and frequent visitors' talks, there is also unexplained footsteps near the lantern room.
He just jumbled that whole sentence, but I think you guys can figure it out.
Odd flashing lights. And when it shouldn't be active, and there's knocking at the old keeper's quarters with no one present.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to need to make another stop, because I didn't even realize that this one was supposedly haunted until I started putting this list together. This Truro is right before Provincetown, or P-Town, as we usually call it. But next time we go to P-Town, I think we need to make another stop. Maybe
Did they talk about it on the ghost tour?
I don't think so. Maybe. I don't think so. Remember they talked about Tony Chop Chop. And we should tell that story. Well, this isn't a true crime podcast, but he was a guy who killed a bunch of people in P-Town. And he was in Truro. He had a garden where he buried several of his bodies, but I think that was the only mention. But anyway, so I've been to the Highland Light actually several times, because I think there's a picture somewhere. I went there with my mom once, and I think there's a picture of her there too. I should dig that up. I don't know where that even could be. Anyway, I've been there, and you've been there, and we should go back, but later in the day, when the ghosts might come out. Twilight is the best time. Some associates of the Highland Light say that the spirits and sailors who perished on the treacherous shoals outside of Cape Cod in foggy storms are somehow drawn to the tower. Their energies linger where so many lives were lost. Others talk about shadowy forms spotted out on the dunes or along the pathways at dusk. I just said that. Oh my God.
So throughout all these stored beacons, Seguin Island, Boon Island, New London, Ledge, Wood Island, and even Highland, there's a common theme. It is isolation, perilous seas, and long stretches of loneliness and human tragedy.
Well, the Highland Light is on land. That's not on an island, so I don't know if that's as isolated as some of the lighthouses out on islands. I'm just inserting my 2 cents.
It's probably hard to get to there, then maybe they're
no, well, maybe, because you do have to go down a long road to get there. Anyway, carry on.
So they're deeply woven into New England's maritime history and the imagination of those who visit these landmarks.
Yeah, I don't know why I did these all out of order. I really need to organize my thoughts better, but we're going to continue on with another lighthouse in Maine. Chris, if you want to take this one. I can't wait to see how you pronounce this.
So this is Owl's Headlight, and it is Headlight.
Owl's Head Lighthouse.
Okay, and it's on the southern edge of Rockland, Maine.
No, you skipped it. That's not fair.
I was going to say
Penobscot Bay,
right above Penobscot Bay.
Yeah, exactly.
It was first commissioned in 1825 and became operational in 1828 to guide ship traffic in and out of Maine's busiest harbor during its height as a maritime hub. The tower's striking appearance, perched on a rocky bluff and visible for miles, has made it a favorite site for coastal travelers.
Yeah, but alongside its scenic beauty is a set of enduring legends. One of the most reported phenomena at Owl's Head involves the figure of a former keeper who, according to visitors and staff, sometimes appears on foggy nights dressed in antiquated oilskins as though still keeping watch over the bay he once tended. Witnesses say that this figure appears near the tower steps, pausing to look out toward the water before simply fading away into the mist.
And that's not all. There's also a presence referred to as the Little Lady. She's described not as frightening, but as something that behaves almost like a resident spirit. Doors opening and closing on their own, silverware rattling in the kitchen drawers when no one is present, and shadows flickering in the windows of the old keeper's house. Some say she's the spirit of a lighthouse cook or keeper's wife who tended the home long ago.
Yeah, and then there are the unexplained sounds. The sudden cold drafts in perfectly warm rooms, the heavy footsteps across the wooden floors when the building is empty. Oh, and there are reports of a bell or a chime that seem to echo out across the fog at night, even though there's no sound source in existence. Locals have tied these to sailors lost at sea, as though the light still speaks for them even today.
Now we're going to travel farther down the coast, just off the sound near Fairfield, Connecticut, which stands Penfield Reef Lighthouse, a smaller but eerier beacon with hauntings that date back to more than a century. It was built in 1874 to mark the dangerous reef stretching out from the coast. It's one of Connecticut's most isolated lights, accessible only by boat.
Ooh. Local legend holds that in December 1916, lighthouse keeper Frederick A. Jordan rowed across turbulent waters to the mainland to join his family for Christmas, but the rough sea capsized his small boat before he could reach shore. Jordan drowned, and 2 weeks later, his assistant keeper, Rudolph Eiton, claimed that he saw Jordan's ghostly figure floating down the tower stairs before dissolving into the darkness. Eiton later found the keeper's log open to the very page where Jordan's death was recorded, a haunting symbol that his presence lingered.
And the haunting didn't end there. Other keepers reported doors opening and closing on their own, lights flickering, and equipment behaving strangely during calm weather. Some accounts even suggest lights from the tower have flashed at strange intervals when no keeper was on duty, as though Jordan was trying to keep the light alive from beyond the grave.
Yeah, paranormal researchers have noted that remote, exposed locations like Penfield Reef may fuel eerie interpretations, but stories of lights behaving as though a lost keeper was still at his post have persisted in local lore for decades.
Now we're going to go back to Maine. Along the rocky coastline near York stands Nubble Lighthouse.
We've been there too. Actually, I have pictures of some of these lighthouses on my phone. I should dig them up if I still have them.
Now, it was first lit in 1879 to help ships navigate the treacherous Atlantic outcroppings just offshore. This iconic red roof lighthouse remains one of the most picturesque on the East Coast.
Yeah, it does. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I'm pretty sure I still have a picture on my phone. I'm saying I'm going to put all these pictures on social media, and I hope I remember when the time comes. But beyond the Nubble's scenic views and postcard perfect oh my God!
Where's the buzzer?
I know. And I swear to God, it's coming from Amazon today, so we'll have it soon. Let me start over. And I'm going to get all the Chris out of my system. But beyond its scenic views and postcard perfect appearance, Nubble Light carries its own set of ghostly stories. There, I got it out. Some local legends speak of shipwrecked spirits tied to many vessels lost on the rocks here long before the lighthouse existed. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble. The most famous involves Isidore, a ship that sank just offshore on Thanksgiving Day in 1842 with no survivors. Residents have claimed that on certain November nights, lights appear to flicker on the water's surface where the ship went down.
Now, there's also talk of a ghost of a keeper's widow, a woman who watched from the tower's windows for husbands who never returned. Some say she still appears at the top of the lighthouse on foggy evenings, a white figure outlined against the water as though waiting for a ship that will never come.
As though waiting for a ship that will never come. And beyond figures in white or phantom lights on the water, witnesses around Nubble sometimes report shadowy people near the lantern room or echoes of footsteps when the tower is empty. Experiences that add to the haunting reputation of this beloved Maine landmark.
And now we're going to come to one of the most historical, significant beacons in America. A lighthouse that has warned sailors approaching the oldest port in our nation for over 300 years. And one of the most talked about haunted lights in Massachusetts. And I'm talking about Little Brewster Island, Boston Light.
Mm-hmm.
It sits off of Boston Harbor and was first established in 1716. It is the oldest lighthouse in the United States, and for centuries critical for guiding ships safely into Boston's bustling port. But with that long, storied history comes an equally long list of eerie stories.
Yeah, one of the earliest tragedies here involved the lighthouse's first keeper, George Worthylake, and his wife and their infant child, who drowned when their small boat capsized returning to the island. Later accounts also suggest that Robert Saunders, who was the next keeper, mysteriously drowned early in his tenure, adding layers of loss to the lighthouse's legacy.
And over the years, keepers and visitors have reported hearing footsteps, echoing when no one is there, objects moving or rocking on their own, including a rocking chair, shifting without explanation. There are also reports of voices, cries for help.
Disembodied voices. I noticed you skipped over that word. It's important.
Carried on the wind, and the distinct feel of being watched while alone on the island.
One long-running piece of folklore involves an old sailor spirit associated with the Boston Light. Legends say that he doesn't like loud music, and when Coast Guard personnel tune radios near the lighthouse to rock stations, like, rock and roll stations, the signal will mysteriously cut to classical music instead. Paranormal investigators and keepers alike have chalked it up to unexplained interference tied to ghostly sailor presence.
There are even stories from visitors who've seen a figure dressed in old keeper's uniform at the top of the tower, only to climb up there and find no one there. And some late-night foghorns have sounded with no mechanical cause, and pets have reacted nervously to unseen presence near the building.
And with centuries of maritime tragedy, drownings, and countless souls who pass through this harbor, Boston Light's haunting history is as layered and deep as its position in American nautical lore. It's a place where history and legend really do converge in the fog-shrouded salt air.
Now, not farther down the coast is another haunting Massachusetts beacon.
It's pronounced Minot.
Minot's?
Minot?
Minot's Lighthouse.
Minot's Ledge.
Minot's Ledge. It perches on a small ledge a mile offshore, marking one of the most treacherous hazards along the Massachusetts coastline. The original structure was one of the earliest attempts at building a lighthouse on a sea rock, and it nearly killed itself trying.
Built in 1850, the first version was made of iron and steel pilings, anchoring a skeletal tower to the rock. But before long, it faced one of the worst nor'easters the region had ever seen at the time. Keeper John Bennett went ashore for supplies, leaving his assistants, Joseph Wilson and Joseph Antoine, behind. That night, the storm battered the structure so violently that it collapsed and both assistants perished. A message in a bottle they left behind proclaimed that the lighthouse was doomed.
And then after the wreck, a new granite lighthouse was built in the 1860s. Taller and stronger, but it carried the legacy of that disaster with it. Local fishermen have reported seeing the dark silhouette of a man climbing the ladder on the side of the tower during storms, shouting something that sounds like a warning. Believed to be Antonio calling out in his native Portuguese, some say that this is him fulfilling a promise to stand guard there during the worst weather.
Yeah, I think it's Antoine. Keepers over the years have described tapping sounds on the railings, a signaling practice of the assistants once used, happening when no one is there, as well as shadow figures in the lantern room in the dead of night. Fishermen say that the faces of Wilson and Antoine have been seen reflected in calm seas in the water near the docks.
And there's also lore from Native American folklore tying the ledge to a spirit called Hobomok, a fearsome entity whose anger was once said to whip up devastating storms. While there may be more mythological, the long history of catastrophic waves and shipwrecks have lends a visceral backdrop to the hauntings.
I need to really rethink what I put in your sections.
You always give me the hard words.
I know, I don't though. These are common words. Anyway, keepers stationed there often left early, unnerved by the relentless pounding of waves and the eerie sensations. So much so that some quit citing strange voices and inexplicable sounds they heard while they were alone in the lighthouse.
And as we shared tonight, these lighthouses were not just beacons of light. They were places of loneliness, danger, frantic storms, and real human suffering. Without through tragedy, isolation, or the desperate battles with nature lighthouse keepers once faced. The stories woven around these simple stones and beams reach far beyond simple history.
Yeah, and as you guys wander up and down the coasts of Massachusetts, New England, and you guys are listening to the waves crash, and you feel the wind coming off the Atlantic, it's kind of impossible not to feel like some of those lights may still be shining because they remember what happened there. That energy gets imprinted. You just never know. Maybe something never left. And that's it. If I can find pictures of the Nubble, I think I might have the Highland Light pictures. I don't know. If I can find any pictures, I'll post them on social media, if I remember. No promises, though. Okay. If you have any questions, let us know.
All right. See you later, alligator.
I love that he just gets right to it. In a while, crocodile.